All right, so I have a question. How good does a new TV need to be for you to replace the one that you already have? Like say it's like up on your wall. For me, that's a pretty high bar. Now I've got an LG G3 OLED on my wall. It's been there for a couple of years now. Now, obviously there have been newer OLEDs since then that are technically better, sure, but like none of them really like take it off the wall and like redo everything kind of better. Like, you know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong, the G3, it's still excellent. I have no real motivation to kind of like change anything around, but the TV that TCL sent over might be the one that actually gets me to change it. This is the TCL QM8L. This is their new SQD-MiniLED for 2026, and it's one of the most impressive LED TVs that I've had in my house for years. Impressive enough that I'm actually genuinely debating replacing my main OLED with an LED TV. So for me, this isn't just a review, it's a decision. All right, so if this thing was going to replace my OLED, it had to win in 3 categories. It had to win in brightness, color, and control. So let's start with brightness because the numbers are worth talking about here. Now, TCL claims up to 6,000 nits on the QM8L, and my 75-inch review unit measured at 5,180 nits in a 10% window and just over 1,050 nits in a full screen view. Now, if those numbers mean absolutely nothing to you, that's okay. Like, here's the translation. If somebody asked me like how bright a TV needs to be to look really great in like a really, really bright room, I would say around 700 or so nits in a full screen brightness and about 2,000 in like a 10% window. And generally, you're gonna be in pretty good shape. The QM8L clears both of those numbers by a solid margin. You are not going to want for more brightness with this set, you know, like unless you personally enjoy squinting at your screen whenever you're watching TV. In my dark room, I was actually running it at around 50% brightness, and anything above that started to feel kind of uncomfortable. It looked very punchy, it looked balanced and impactful at that 50%. So my opinion is like you don't really need more than that 50 or 60% brightness on the set in a dark room scenario. However, even in my living room with that like big window cranking in that afternoon sun, 80% was all I needed to sort of overpower my notoriously placed window. Normally I'm pushing every set in this space up to 100% in that environment. The QM8L, it looked great at 80%, so you got a lot of headroom there, which is really nice. Now, one thing I specifically tested is for automatic brightness limiting. Now, what that means for regular people is that some TVs will secretly dim themselves during long, sustained bright scenes to sort of protect the panel. And you'll notice this if you're paying attention to it. Now, my G3, it does this pretty aggressively in extreme scenes, but you know, that's an OLED thing. Now, on most LED TVs, especially mini LED sets, you don't really have aggressive brightness limiting. It'll happen, but you'll rarely, if ever, see it on LED TVs. But with this being newer LED tech that does get really, really bright, you never really know how it's going to behave. So, you know, I wanted to test for it. Happy to report that the QM8L just held that brightness all the way through and just kept on going. No noticeable dimming during really bright, impactful scenes. And that matters more than people realize, especially in a bright room where that dimming can be really, really noticeable. Now, as for the anti-reflective coating that it has it, but it's just a little bit there. It certainly helps, but it's still a very reflective panel. It's not going to be the same as what you get from Samsung's matte style OLED coating. The positive side of it is that the QM8L mostly overpowers any reflections just with sheer brightness, rather than trying to eliminate them. And for the most part, that works really well. Now, while the brightness is really impressive on this TV, the color is where it really starts to make its case, and it all comes down to SQD. So let me actually explain what that is, because most coverage, it just sort of drops the term and then moves on. I think that's doing people a disservice. And bear with me because this is going to get like a little bit nerdy for a second, but I promise I'm gonna bring it all back around to more relatable terms. So traditional quantum dot TVs use quantum dot particles to convert blue LED light into red and green, which is kind of how most QLED TVs get their signature vibrancy out of the colors with the standard LED backlight. TCL's super quantum dots are much smaller, around 5 nanometers compared to 60 nanometers in conventional dots. Now, those smaller particles means that you can get much more precise color conversion out of them, meaning that you can produce a wider range of colors and you can waste less energy in the whole process. Now, TCL claims that the QM8L can hit 100% coverage of the BT 2020 color gamut on this panel. And I know by this time your eyes have probably glossed over, but let me explain why all this matters for the things that you will actually start watching, especially in the very near future. BT 2020 is becoming the most overused term in TV coverage right now, and I worry that it's sort of losing its meaning. You hear wider color gamut and you probably think like, okay, the red is gonna be a little bit more red and the grass is gonna be a slightly different shade of green. Like, it looked fine before, like who cares, right? But BT 2020 in practice, isn't just about more vibrancy in those colors. It's about making those colors correct across the entire image. Now, one of the biggest benefits to that is better white balance in the image. A sunset on screen doesn't just have warm highlights. The whole scene feels warm and rich in a way that a sunset actually does. With proper white balance, skin tones will look more accurate, and this especially matters with darker melanin-rich skin tones, where accurate representation of those skin tones is genuinely not something that most TVs will handle well. Now, while the improvements will feel subtle, it's the kind of thing that a regular viewer can't quite put their finger on, like why it looks better, like they just know that it does. Honestly, that's the best kind of picture quality upgrade, the kind that you feel before you understand it. However, I need to give a really big caveat to all of this stuff. Mainstream BT 2020 content, it's not really here yet. Certain films will show small portions of that extended color gamut for specific scenes, but you're not really watching a whole movie mastered entirely in BT 2020 right now. Now, all that stuff is just gonna come with time because, you know, HD TVs, it came before HD content, and 4K TVs came before 4K content. Just know that when the BT 2020 content does come, your TV is going to be ready for it. However, what you're getting out of SQD today is that it's doing real work on regular HDR content, and that is the part that is really impressive. And this is probably the most impactful HDR performance that I've seen on an LED panel. You have color contrast is excellent, the gradients are very smooth, and there is absolutely no color crosstalk on this panel. And that's going to be a recurring topic with RGB mini LED, where the colors in sort of adjacent zones can bleed into one another and soften the color accuracy on those sets. Now, it's not going to be an issue on SQD mini LED. Now, it's not all flowers for this TV. One thing to flag about this, it is not the most color accurate out of the box. This TV runs really hot in the reds. And this is also true for the TCL's X11L, their new top-end flagship SQD mini LED. So I don't know if this is just an SQD thing or if it's just how TCL has been tuning these TVs in the last 2 iterations or so. But on the QM8L, the skin tones will look a little pink on certain content, and some scenes felt a little bit oversaturated, again, especially in those reds. Now, the fix for this is going to be relatively simple. You have the filmmaker and movie modes. That gets you most of the way there, about 90% of the way to a better looking image. I made a few small additional tweaks to the reds and the greens, but from there, it's really not that big of a deal. You just spend an extra couple of minutes in the settings, kind of before you just leave it on the defaults. The good news is that a little bit of adjustment on this goes a long way on this panel if you know what you're adjusting. But once I got this thing dialed in, there was a point in my testing to where I was looking up at my G3 up on the wall and I was like, oh buddy, I think your days are numbered. When I was watching content on the QM8L, I realized that I wasn't particularly missing my OLED, and that's not something that happens to me a lot with LED TVs. All right, so this TV has passed the color and the brightness checks for me, and now we're gonna be moving on to control. What is the contrast, the processing, and the gaming going to look like on this thing? I'm happy to report that the contrast for an LED TV is very, very good. It's not OLED perfect, but it's certainly strong enough that in the right conditions, at the right angle, you could genuinely convince somebody that they're looking at an OLED TV. Watching actual content, the blacks looked really deep, the highlights stay controlled, and the blooming was very, very minimal. Now, of course, I stress tested this, and I could find some haloing and very, very slight blooming when I was actively hunting for it. But in normal content, again, I wasn't sitting there thinking about my OLED. I wasn't missing it at all until I stepped off to the side. When you get off axis, that's where this whole OLED illusion thing starts to slip away. Now, to TCL's credit, their WHVA 2.0 Ultra panel is a real improvement over the first generation for viewing angles, but again, it is not in OLED territory. Now, straight on though, in the kind of real living room conditions where most people are going to watch their TV, it is very, very convincing. Now, gaming is also going to be excellent. You got 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, all capable of 4K at 144 Hertz and VRR up to 288 Hertz for those PC gamers out there if you're interested. Now, as for the games that I typically play with my daughter, Mario Kart, basically anything that's super vibrant and colorful, that is of course going to look great. But again, that's going to look great on most sets. That looks really great on just a QLED set. However, the HDR performance on this set is a real standout. Really amazing detail in both the shadows and the specular highlights. I did notice some ghosting with the motion processing turned on, but I always turn that stuff off anyway, and then it just disappeared completely. But even with it off, I didn't notice any smearing or artifacts, which is good news. Design is where I think TCL I think they might have left something off the table here. The TV itself is thicker than you'd expect coming from, like a modern OLED, but again, like what TV isn't super thick in comparison to an OLED, but as long as you know that, this is mini LED construction, so that's fine. I'm not a huge fan of the stand. It's mostly plastic, and on a TV at this price point, at this tier of TCL's lineup, the stand is plastic and it feels every bit of that. Now on my unit, it caused a slight lean forward that I never fully made peace with. I don't know if this is just my specific stand or if this will be a thing across like all of these stands in general, but we've seen more than a few quality TVs come out with subpar stands. A prime example being my LG G3, which is exactly why I wall mounted that TV. Now my advice is just to do the same with this set. It looks better up on a wall anyway, in my opinion. Plus you don't really have the anxiety of it leaning forward. So, win-win in this scenario. And I don't want to be unfair to TCL. I'm not worried about the stand breaking or anything like that. I just prefer to have a little bit more peace of mind when it comes to my TVs. Hey, so Future JD here. I just got done filming a different video. That's why all this looks a little bit different. But I did just see that an email came in from TCL with pricing information on all these TVs, and I thought that I would share that with you real quick. I'll also put the prices up on the screen for each of these sizes. Now, the prices for these, the smallest size is 65-inch. That's going to be just under $2,500, $2,499. The 75-inch is going to be just under $3,000. The 85-inch is just under $4,000, and the 98-inch is just under $6,000. Now, for context, the 65-inch QM8L, it's starting at about $1,000 more than what the QM8K came out last year in the same size, and about $500 more than the QM9K in the same size. So that kind of begs the question, is the QM8L going to be worth those extra $100? I mean, listen, this is brand new TV tech. There's going to be some level of a premium that's going to naturally be attached to it. This is not something new. But I think that SQD is going to at least stick around for a while, and I doubt that TCL is going to be the only one with that technology in a few years. Now, personally, I like the QM8L better than the QM8K in just about every way, but that'll be up to you if that price is going to be worth it for you. I recommend at least going in a store and comparing so you can make that decision for yourself. And something to note with all of this stuff, these prices sort of point to TCL. They're at least taking themselves a little bit more seriously. Not saying that they didn't take themselves seriously, but the public perception of TCL was that they were just kind of a budget set brand, a brand that you go to a box store and then you just kind of buy one because it's on sale. This is TCL actually taking themselves seriously because their tech is actually a lot more serious now in comparison to things like OLEDs, to things like RGB mini LED, to things like micro RGB. They're stepping up to the plate along with everybody else, and they're pricing it accordingly. So I say good for them. It might not be as good for your wallet. It might not sound quite as good initially, but what you're getting for that price is a good product. You're getting a good TV, and you're getting something that has brand new tech in it. So is that going to be worth the price to you? It's going to be up to you. All right, so now after all this stuff, where do we land with the QM8L? Did it check enough boxes to replace my G3 OLED? It's not very often that a TV comes along that makes me want to replace what's up on my wall. And while this TV is absolutely incredible, it will not be replacing my G3 OLED. That's our cinema set, so to speak. And when it comes to late night watching, the QM8L, it simply can't beat what OLED can do in that very specific dark scene scenario. But this TV is getting very, very close. However, the QM8L, it will be replacing another OLED TV in my home in a place that I think matters more than that. This is gonna make a lot of OLED nerds really upset, but this will be replacing my Samsung S95F OLED set in our main living room space. And I had it there because of that giant window that I always talk about. It's right next to where the TV goes. So that anti-reflective coating was doing a lot to help with those reflections. But the QM8L overpowers the sun even when it's pouring in. And to me, this is a bigger deal, I think, replacing my G3 OLED, because this is where we watch things as a family. This is a room where life happens in my home, and the TV that's in that room plays a very important role for our family dynamic. So while it didn't replace the OLED that I thought that it would, it took the place of another, and it will be our most used TV in our home. And I think that that is the biggest compliment I can give any TV. I'm gonna be doing a lot more testing with this TV, as I'll be using it every single day. So if there's things that I didn't cover in this review, make sure to drop those questions down below and I'll make sure to get to those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.